All right, we're gonna get started, I think. I'm Cedar. Welcome to JAM, Junction Arts and Media. We are the cable access station and also a community media center. We're open 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and people can check out gear, come use computers, charge their phones, just whatever you need to do that's vaguely media related. We also host events like this one, as long as they're vaguely media related. Quick housekeeping stuff. We have exits right there, and behind these black curtains, there's an exit that goes out to bathrooms, but also to the Revolution parking lot. Feel free to use those at any time. There's also, if you don't want to interrupt who's speaking up here, there's bathrooms up in the Briggs Opera House, just under that big awning right to the left. We are filming. So if you go up to speak for an open mic, or if you just are generally speaking, we have Taj and Drew here. You can just say, I don't want to be filmed, and they will shut the cameras off. No big deal. Otherwise, that video footage is just going to go on the cable access station and on our email lists and our YouTube. So that's kind of the extent of that distribution. We'll also gladly share it to whoever wants it. And on that note, Emily has stuff to say. Yay!
If I must die, you must live to tell my story, to sell my things, to buy a piece of cloth and some strings, make it white with a long tail, so that a child somewhere in Gaza, while looking heaven in the eye, awaiting his dad who left in a blaze, and bid no one farewell, not even to his flesh, not even to himself, sees the kite, my kite you made, flying up above, and thinks for a moment an angel is there bringing back love. If I must die, let it bring hope. Let it be a story. We read this poem in memory of its author, the poet, writer, literature professor, and activist, Dr. Rafat Al-Arir, who was killed in a targeted Israeli airstrike on December 6th that also killed his brother, his sister, and 4 of her children. He is survived by his wife, Nusayba, and their children. Al-Arir was an educator like I am, and believed, like I do, in the power of literature to clarify the world around us. In addition to his work as a professor of literature and creative writing at the Islamic University of Gaza, he edited several collections of writing about Palestine and co-founded the nonprofit We Are Not Numbers, which is dedicated to developing a new generation of writers and thinkers who together can bring a profound change to the Palestinian cause. I wanted the first words I spoke tonight to be Al-Arir's, not only because he was the inspiration for this entire event, but also because he worked until the very last moment of his life to condemn the ongoing atrocities committed against his people by Israel and the successive US administrations that have enabled them. We gather here tonight following the grim 100-day marker of the ongoing genocide against the people of Gaza, following the case in the International Court of Justice brought against Israel by South Africa, and following unconstitutional missile strikes on Yemen in the name of protecting products, not people. We gather days after the annual celebration of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a staunch anti-imperialist and anti-war advocate, whose words are constantly misused by those who perpetuate the very injustices he constantly spoke out against. The words we use to name all of these things matter. If they didn't, it would not matter when we turned on the news to see Israel's defense in the ICJ streaming while media outlets had been silent during South Africa's presentation the day before. It would not matter that the ADL had started counting all pro-Palestine rallies as incidents of anti-Semitism, even when no anti-Semitic remarks, signs, or overtures had been present. It would not matter that in the White House's statement on the 100-day mark, Biden made zero mention of the over 23,000 Palestinians that have been murdered in Gaza since October 7th. If this is your first time at a Palestinian Solidarity event, welcome. Poetry can be a connective force, which is partially why we are relying on it here. But please do not leave here this evening thinking that this is the end. As Palestinian journalist Motaz Azeza recently reminded us, Don't call yourself a free person if you can't make changes, if you can't stop a genocide that is still ongoing. We are not free, not a single one of us, until all of us are free. Here, in Gaza, in Sudan, in Congo, in Yemen, all the world over. Our safety as individuals truly is wrapped up in our collective safety and liberation. And for that, if nothing else, I encourage you to treat this as a small step in a long lifetime's worth of work. As Fargo Nassim Tabaki writes in his essay, Notes on Craft, Writing in the Hour of Genocide, what the long middle of revolution requires, what Palestine requires, is an approach to writing whose primary purpose is to gather others up with us, to generate within them an energy which their bodies cannot translate into anything but revolutionary movement. We must be engaged in this kind of writing, which calls others into mobilization, generating feelings within our audiences that cannot be dispersed through the act of reading, but must be carried out into collective action. You will hear words tonight from Palestinian poets, as well as poets who write in solidarity with Palestine. You may engage in your own writing, whether creative or directed at your representatives. It is my deep hope that you will use all of these words as a springboard towards revolutionary movement and collective action. Again, welcome. We are so glad that you are here. Your place in this work is indispensable, and it belongs only to you. For the first portion of this evening, we will hear from members of Upper Valley for Palestine, Jewish Voice for Peace, Vermont, New Hampshire, the Upper Valley Muslim Society, and the Vermont Coalition for Palestinian Liberation, all of whom have selected a poem from a Palestinian poet or poet in solidarity with Palestine. Nasreen Natani will generously conduct an Arabic reading of many of these poems following their English versions. She'll begin with the Rafat al-Arir poem in just a moment. After our scheduled series of readers, we encourage those of you in the audience to consider bringing a poem of your choice to the mic. If you already have one that you know and feel fits the spirit of the evening, that's wonderful. If you would like a selection, we have some on the table over there for you to choose from as well. So first up, I'm going to have Nasreen come and do the Rafat al-Arir poem, If I Must Die in Arabic, and then we're going to hear from Chris Halali. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Rifat wrote his poem in English for the world to read it, but let it live in Arabic too, Rifat's mother, through Rifat's mother's tongue. إذا كان لابد أن أموت فعليك أن تحيا لتقص قصتي لتبيع أشيائي لتشتري قطعة قماش وبضعة خيوط لتكون بيضاء بذيل طويل حتى طفل في مكان ما في غزة يحدق بالسماء ينتظر أباه الذي غادر على عجل بلى أن يودع أحدا حتى جسده حتى نفسه يرى الطائرة الورقية طائرتي التي صنعتها تحلق عاليا ويظن لوهلة أن ملاكا عاليا يعيد الحب إذا كان لابد أن أموت لتجعلها تحضر الأمل لتجعلها قصة. Thank you.
Salam, everyone. For those who don't know the work of the first poet I will read, Mahmoud Darwish was a pillar of Palestinian literary life. He is considered today Palestine's national poet. In 1988, he wrote the Palestinian Declaration of Independence, which helped to establish a framework for the state. Mahmoud Darwish studied in the Soviet Union. and was very involved in the liberation struggle, being friends with, of course, the head of the PLO, Yasser Arafat, and other members, including George Habash, who was the leader of the PFLP. And of course, in the 1980s, he was awarded the Lenin Peace Prize in the Soviet Union. He was never honored for his work by the West, but he was honored tremendously by the Arab world and by those who stood in solidarity with the Palestinians. This poem is very well known, and I hope that after tonight you can continue to spread it as it came to me many years ago. Write down, I am an Arab. My ID card number is 50,000. My children, 8. And the 9th is coming after the summer. Are you angry? Write down, I am an Arab. I work with my toiling comrades in a quarry. My children are 8, and out of the rocks I draw their bread, clothing, and writing paper. I do not beg for charity at your door, nor do I grovel at your doorstep tiles. Does that anger you? Write down, I am an Arab, a name without a title, patient in a country where everything lives on flared-up anger. My roots took firm hold before the birth of time, before the beginning of the ages, before the cypress and olives, before the growth of pastures. My father, of the people of the plow, not of noble masters. My grandfather, a peasant, of no prominent lineage, taught me pride of self before reading of books. My house is a watchman's hut of sticks and reed. Does my status satisfy you? I am a name without a title. Write down, I am an Arab, hair coal black, eyes brown, my distinguishing feature, on my head a kufiya topped by the igal, and my palms rough as stone, scratch anyone who touches them. My address, an unarmed village, forgotten, whose streets are nameless, and all its men are in the field and quarry. Are you angry? Write down, I am an Arab, robbed of my ancestors' vineyards and of the land cultivated by me and all my children. Nothing is left for us and my grandchildren except these rocks. Will your government take them too, as reported? Therefore, write at the top of page 1, I do not hate people. I do not assault anyone. But if I get hungry, I eat the flesh of my usurper. Beware, beware of my hunger and of my anger. The next poem is by Palestine's other national poet, Fadwa Tukan, who in her own right was a woman unparalleled in Palestinian literary life in the 20th century. And her poems are also considered to be the soul and essence of the Palestinian people. And of course, it's beautiful and complementary to have both Mahmoud Darwish and Fadwa Tukan to speak to us since they are no longer here through their poems. This poem, Face Lost in the Wilderness, was written in the 1960s at a time of tremendous upheaval and at the time when the state of Israel began its occupation of East Jerusalem, the West Bank, Gaza, and the Golan Heights, which belonged to Syria. This poem is called Face Lost in the Wilderness. Do not fill postcards with memories. Between my heart and the luxury of passion stretches a desert where ropes of fire blaze and smolder, where snakes coil and recoil, swallowing blossoms with poison and flame. No, don't ask me to remember. Love's memory is dark, the dream clouded. Love is a lost phantom in a wilderness night. Friend, the night has slain the moon. In the mirror of my heart, you can find no shelter. Only my country's disfigured face. Her face, lovely and mutilated. Her precious face. How did the world revolve in this way? Our love was young. Did it grow in this horror? In the night of defeat, black waters covered my land. Blood on the walls was the only bouquet. I hallucinated. Open your breast. Open your mother's breast for an embrace. Priceless are the offerings. The jungle beast was toasting in the tavern of crime. Winds of misfortune howled in the four corners. He was with me that day. I didn't realize mourning would remove him. Our smiles cheated sorrow as I raved, beloved stranger, why did my country become a gateway to hell? Since when are apples bitter? When did moonlight stop bathing orchards? My people used to plant fields and love life. Joyfully they dipped their bread in oil. Fruits and flowers tint the land with magnificent hues. Will the seasons ever again give their gifts to my people? Sorrow, Jerusalem's night is silence and smoke. They imposed a curfew. Now nothing beats in the heart of the city but their bloodied heels, under which Jerusalem trembles like a raped girl. Two shadows from a balcony stare down at the city's night. In the corner, a suitcase of clothes, souvenirs from the Holy Land. His blue eyes stretched like sad lakes. He loved Jerusalem. She was his mystical lover. On and on I ranted, ah, love, why did God abandon my country, imprisoning light, leaving us in seas of darkness? The world was a mythical dragon standing at her gate. Who will ever solve this mystery, beloved, the secret of these words? Now 20 moons have passed. 20 moons and my life continues. Your absence too continues. Only one memory remaining. The face of my stricken country filling my heart. And my life continues. The wind merges me with my people on the terrible road of rocks and thorns. But behind the river, dark forests of spears sway and swell. The roaring storm unravels mystery. Give in to dragon, silence the power of words. A rush and din, flame and sparks lighting the road. One group after another falls embracing in one lofty death. The night, no matter how long, will continue to give birth to star after star, and my life continues. My life continues.
This poem is by Mahmoud Darwish, the one that just Chris has read to you. It's called in Arabic بطاقة الهوية. سجل أنا عربي ورقم بطاقتي 50,000. أطفالي 8 وتاسعهم سيأتي بعد صيف، فهل تغضب؟ سجل أنا عربي وأعمل مع رفاق الكدح في محجر وأطفالي 8 أسل لهم رغيف الخبز والأثواب والدفتر من الصخر، ولا أتوسل صدقاتي من بابك ولا أصغر أمام بلاط أعتابك، فهل تغضب؟ سجل أنا عربي، أنا اسم بلا لقب، صبور في بلاد كل ما فيها يعيش بفورة الغضب. جذوري قبل ميلاد الزمان رست، وقبل تفتح الحقب، وقبل السرو والزيتون، وقبل ترعرع العشب. أبي من أسرة المحراث لا من سادة نجب، وجدي كان فلاحا بلا حسب ولا نسب، يعلمني شموخ الشمس قبل قراءة الكتب، وبيتي كوخ ناطور من الأعواد والقصب، فهل ترضيك منزلتي؟ أنا اسم بلا لقب. سجل أنا عربي ولون الشعر فحمي، ولون الشعر فحمي، ولون العين بني، وميزاتي على رأسي عقال فوق كوفية، وكفي صلبة كالصخر تخمش من يلامسها، وعنواني أنا من قرية عزلاء منسية شوارعها بلا أسماء، وكل رجالها في الحقل والمحجر، فهل تغضب؟ سجل أنا عربي، سلبت كروم أجدادي وأرضا كنت أفلحها أنا وجميع أولادي، ولم تترك لنا ولكل أحفادي سوى هذه الصخور، فهل ستأخذها حكومتكم كما قيل؟ إذن سجل برأس الصفحة الأولى: أنا لا أكره الناس ولا أسطو على أحد، ولكني إذا ما جعت آكل لحم مغتصبي، حذاري حذاري من جوعي ومن غضبي. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to be reading two poems from Rasha Abdul Hadi. Rasha is a queer Palestinian Southerner who grew up between Damascus, Syria, and rural Georgia. They cut their teeth organizing on the south sides of Chicago and Atlanta. Rasha's work has appeared in Strange Horizons, Plume, Mislexia, Mitzna, Room, Tap Magazine, and is anthologized in Stoked Words and the Hugo-nominated collection Luminescent Threads, Connections to Octavia Butler. Rasha has received fellowships from the Poetry Foundation, Emerging Poets Incubator, and Maryland State Arts Counselor, and is a member of Radius of Arab American Writers and Alternate Roots. Their first chapbook, Shell Houses, is available from the Head in the Hand Press. The first poem I'm going to read is called Safe Harbor and Enemy Homes. Even the trees are not blameless here. They choose sides, shelter conspiracy, and lend their limbs to massacre. On this green knuckle of mountain, made retreat for writers and fiber artists, potters, lapidarists, and some of history's most famous racists, folks so deeply dyed, it's not clear anymore what they'll break for. And I would be ready, sure, to steady burn. This sturdy cabin so clean, tendered to me for shelter, for there is no place in this good green earth safe from its own history's hollowed out horrors. Who among us can take a retreat from horrors? Who seeks to beat a hasty one from consequence or scrutiny? And how do we make any peace when even our retreats choose sides? Fostering peace and unity recruits starch Southerners to sponsor apartheid in some land hallowed by war to hasten the end times, because in the beginning, this place housed travelers. Merely means meeting for the organizers and fundraisers of B'nai B'rith, and supporting his brethren funds youth militias to clear houses and empty villages. In this gracious confrontation, under the sweet breath of branches on land reclaimed by Zion from the hands of a Klansman, propagandist, and a friend of presidents. Here we are supplied with a partial archive and a refuge built against two reckonings. So which lines are pointed enough to pierce the open copying to crimes? Left unlocked on library shelves, framed on the wall, celebrated with a graven plaque. Every shelf is dreaming two nations' glory. Every shelf is a recruitment, a history. Every shelf complicity among the ruins. My words endure in the frayed spine. Peel back the cover sheet and find I'm in your retreat, writing where the pages of the Deep South touch Palestine. Have I not come here to find safe harbor, at the point of a knife, daring respite, or the remediation of ill-gotten spoils? And spoiling for a fight, am I not reminded? No harbor is safe, and every port is the point of a nation's knife. The next poem I'll be reading is called Nakba Day Dance, also by Rasha Abdulhadi. I apologize if I pronounce any of the Arabic wrong. Atini ane waghani, bringing me the flute and sing to me, O now, O sisters of my father. I take shelter in the rose of Damascus, ward Asham's, the taste of the language in my mouth like a meal. How I could not cook the old recipes until I could say the words. How more words came to me in floods and trickles, links in a chain, twists in a rope, the twists in a silken thread, red on the brocade of a young girl's dress. Ain al-Bukhara, the eye of the cow, the moon over Bethlehem, the windmill and long rows done by hand without a grid or guide or pattern. The chicken's feet border the roosters on each shoulder, a lily for purity at the neck, where the thob opens, where the crocheted ties are the clover with clover leaf at the end. The chevron and cedars of Gaza like a necklace. Sing to me now, sisters of my city. Women I will never meet, even in pictures or stories. My aunts and girl cousins who would teach me the dances before weddings at the party of the brides, women dancing together, cheering on women. The memory sweet and fresh, like a date in the desert of my mind. Here I am parched. A refugee's talent is to make friends wherever she goes. A refugee's fate is to keep wandering always, always making new friends, always finding herself in someone else's home. I apologize. I try to watch closely for the rules. Each house, a new regime, each cohort of friends, a new camp to survive. singing to me now, mother of my heart, in your true voice so purely country and southern. How you sang out so freely your few words of old speech, Haik Filahin. You crossed the world to be a country woman again. Barefoot with a scarf on your hair, and now a new life, one that is your own. Find your children in the very act of losing them, to history, to geography, to their own silvering hair. Sing to me now, so that wherever I pass, I can thread my certainty on the sound of the family names, the villages and farms where you knew trees and their individual personalities. Give me hope, fill me with strength to make one day a home that will be my own. Give me a window on the world in which I can live and burn a candle lit. A message to all who pass this way, a song that sings. Come home, rest here, taste this, dance, Gani, sing. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here. I'm going to read a poem by Hiba Abu Nada. She was an award-winning Palestinian writer and educator and the author of the novel Oxygen is Not for the Dead. She wrote the poem I'm going to read on October 10th, 10 days before she was murdered in her home in Gaza by Israeli missiles. She was 32 years old. I Grant You Refuge by Hiba Abu Nada, translated by Huda Fakhruddin. 1. I grant you refuge in invocation and prayer. I bless the neighborhood and the minaret to guard them from the rocket from the moment it is a general's command until it becomes a raid. I grant you and the little ones refuge, the little ones who change the rocket's course before it lands with their smiles. 2. I grant you and the little ones refuge, the little ones now asleep like chicks in a nest. They don't walk in their sleep towards dreams. They know death lurks outside the house. Their mother's tears are now doves following them, trailing behind every coffin. 3. I grant the father refuge, the little one's father who holds the house upright when it tilts after the bombs. He implores the moment of death, have mercy, spare me a little while. For their sake, I have learned to love my life. Grant them a death as beautiful as they are. 4. I grant you refuge from the hurt and death, refuge in the glory of our siege, here in the belly of the whale. Our streets exalt God with every bomb. They pray for the mosques and the houses, and every time the bombing begins in the north, our supplications rise in the south. 5. I grant you refuge from the hurt and suffering with words of sacred scripture. I shield the oranges from the sting of phosphorus and the shades of cloud from the smog. I grant you refuge in knowing that the dust will clear, and they who fell in love and died together will one day laugh. Rest in poetry, Hiba Abu Nada, and in the liberation of Palestine. Thank you.
قصيدة لهبة أبو الندى. أعيذك في الفروض والاستخارة وأرقي كل مأذنة وحارة. من الصاروخ لحظة كان أمرا، من الجنرال حتى صار غارة. أعيذك والصغار قبيل يهوي تغير بابتسامتها مساره. أعيذك والصغار هنا نيام كما نام الفراخ بحضن عش. ولا يمشون للأحلام ليلا لأن الموت نحو البيت يمشي. ودمع الأمهات غدا يماما ليتبعهم به في كل نعش. أعيذ أبا الصغار وبعد قصف يشد البرج حتى لا يميل. يقول للحظة الموت ارحميني فماذا لو تأخرت قليلا. يقول لأجلهم أحببت عمري هبيهم مثلهم موتا جميلا. أعيذك أن تصابي أو تموتي بعز حصارنا وببطن حوتي. شوارعنا تسبح كل قصف وتدعو للمساجد والبيوت. فحين القصف يبدأ من شمال ستبدأ من جنوب بالقنوت. أعيذك أن تصابي أو تعاني فقد حوطت بالسبع المثاني من الفسفور طعم البرتقال وألوان السحاب من الدخان. أعيذك إن من عشقا ومات سينقشع الغبار ويضحكان. اسم الله عليك يا غزة من مجيء الليل.
Hi. I'm going to read two short poems by the poet Basman al-Darawi, who is a physiotherapist from Gaza. The first one is called Don't Step on My Feet Again. Under the constant buzzing of drones, the roar of F-16s over my head while I play hide and seek with peace, whispering, don't be just a break in between assaults. The electricity goes off, total darkness, while I dance with hope, whispering, don't step on my feet again. At the border crossing between the earth and sky, I still stand for hours. My legs are shaking. The sweat all over my body, a voice inside my head, whispering, you're a full human even if you feel like half. That was from the 2022 collection Light in Gaza, Writings Born of Fire, available from Haymarket. And the second poem of his that I'm going to read was written in December of 2023. It's called The Idea Has Failed. I sympathize with God a lot. My heart too has been let down. If we could sit together now, we'd share a cigarette. I'd rest my hand on his shoulder, and we'd cry together until a light rain fell, washing Gaza of this cloud of smoke that does not belong in the sky, stopping the din that kills another child in Gaza, and the blood that's spilling from the world's hand and mouth. Life will spread across Gaza's chest, and there will be a resurrection. Not a wound nor a scar on her, but scars do not die, Ya Allah. I hear him cry. 1 billion silent, 1 million killed. The sound of weeping rings out, and though I am no obedient worshiper, I pray. I remember the faces of families and friends, the streets, the cities, the sea, the faces of everyone I've ever met, every day in Gaza. I pray and I hear his voice with every explosion and severed limb, shouting, "The idea has failed. The idea has failed." Thank you.
She said, in her own words, "I was born and I had with me the word refugee. I haven't seen my town. My hometown, Asdod. But my aunt, Alia, she used to gather us and tell us about the garden that my grandfather had, and the garden of oranges. She used to tell us about the time of harvest and the house of Malian, the house that was full of love and life. I used to see passion in her eyes while she's telling us the stories about our land and the hopes to go back soon. Hiba Ghazi Zaqut. Hiba Ghazi Zaqut, she was born in Gaza as a refugee. She was an artist, a Palestinian artist, during the war in Gaza. In 13 October, Hiba Zaqut and 2 of her kids died. Allah yarhamha. May her soul rest in peace. In her words, she said, my artist work, my art, is not just an expression for beauty. It's an expression and a description of the history, the complicated history, and the beautiful life, and the hope, the eternal hope that I see, the eternal hope that make me feel that my drawings will live forever to show my passion for love and peace and hope. And so that I can get rid of my anxiety and my negative feeling that I feel every day. And Hiba Zaqut continued through her words, I consider the land of Palestine is the place that inspired me to become an artist, is a place that inspired me so that I can draw and show the world the beautiful Palestine. This land that has seen too many wars and resistance and a lot of oppression, where the Palestinian woman has suffered a lot. And I try through my paintings to resist and defend my right and the right of my people the Palestinians to live a better life through the colors, the vibrant colors of my drawings. Hiba was born in Gaza. Since she was young, she had an interest in art. In 2003, she received a diploma in graphic design from Gaza Training College and went on to study fine art at Al-Aqsa University, graduating in 2007. Later, she worked as an art teacher at a primary school in Gaza, and according to Hyperallergic, was a former employee at the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine. As you look at the pictures of Hiba, you would see many of these pictures will be showing the architecture and the towns in Palestine. Her focus is mainly Al-Quds, Jerusalem, and you would see a lot of religious building. She's trying to show through her paintings who the Palestinian people are. In this picture, Hiba is saying, in her own words, alienation makes our hearts as thin as an old fabric that easily leaks water. There is no immunity to our feelings of alienation. Delusion defeats us, and the homelands mix with the people we meet from our homelands. We may love the homeland in them and think that we love them. This painting is a gift for everyone far from home. These last pictures that you see, these are drawings that she made for a project. It's called My Children and I in the Quarantine. And she did her first solo exhibition in Gaza in 2020. I would like to end this presentation by just showing you a video that was done in her memory after she died. And I want to thank you all for being here. And I want to let you know from the deepest of my heart that people like you in this world would bring hope to Hiba and everyone who's away from their home or who are being oppressed. Thank you.
All right, we're gonna move into the open mic portion of the evening. So if you are moved to come up and read a poem, again, you can bring one with you that you've already had. If you would like to peruse, we have a pile of poems on that table over there as well. I'm gonna kind of just leave it open for you to come up in whatever order feels like it makes sense, rather than have me bounce back and forth. Is there anyone who would like to start? Come on up, thank you so much.
It's a short poem by Amal El Sayed, a teacher of English poetry at Ain Shams University in Egypt. And it's called Beneath the Rubble. Beneath the rubble, a wedding dress, embroidered with poppies, dusted with soot, torn to tiny shreds. Beneath the rubble, a checkered kafiyeh, stitched with love, covered in blood, unraveling into flimsy threads. Beneath the rubble, a handmade mishbaha, crafted with care, broken in two, unspooling into countless beads. Beneath the rubble, a jar of olives, selected one by one, scattered like fallen stars, dispersed like seeds. Beneath the rubble, the sweetest figs, handpicked with precision, rotting at the core, never to be consumed. Beneath the rubble, photographs, stories, a heritage, forgotten, silenced, entombed. Beneath the rubble, two sisters embracing, shielded by each other's arms, serene as a painting, tragic like a fairy tale. Beneath the rubble, a child's hand, buried below mountains of debris, reaching out towards you, but to no avail. Thanks.
Put on my eyeballs. This is a poem by Naomi Shihab Nye. From Mohammed Zaid of Gaza, age 15. There is no stray bullet, sirs. No bullet like a worried cat crouching under a bush. No half-hairless puppy bullet dodging midnight streets. The bullet could not be a pecan plunking the tin roof. Not hardly. No fluff of pollen on October's breath. No humble pebble at our feet. So don't gentle it, please. We live among stray thoughts, tasked, abandoned midstream. Our fickle hearts are fat with stray devotions. We feel at home among bits and pieces, all the wandering ways of words. But this bullet had no innocence, did not wish anyone well. You can't tell us otherwise. By naming it mildly, this bullet was never the friend of life, should not be granted immunity by soft saying, friendly fire, straying death eye. Why have we given the wrong weight to what we do? Mohammed deserves the truth. This bullet had no secret happy hopes. It was not singing to itself with eyes closed under the bridge.
Does anybody mind if I just take this off to read? No? Good, because it's very disorienting. This is a poem by Musad Abu Toha, who is currently in Cairo. Wow, is there a reverb on this? We deserve a better death. We deserve a better death. Our bodies are disfigured and twisted, embroidered with bullets and shrapnel. Our names are pronounced incorrectly on the media and TV. Our photos plastered onto the walls of our buildings fade and grow pale. The inscriptions on our gravestones disappear, covered in the feces of birds and reptiles. No one waters the trees that give shade to our graves. The blazing sun has overwhelmed our rotting bodies. If you don't mind, I would like to read something I wrote. How does one turn warm, wet blood into cold, dry ink? Self-care. Allow me to spare you. Here, let me lend you my gaze so as not to disturb your sense of equilibrium. My gaze, which I have protected my entire life. I have preserved these eyes in beauty, waterfalls and ancient forest groves, while I have been watching plants drink sunshine. What have you been ingesting for entertainment? What imitations of life, what artifice do you feast upon? The American penchant for horror and gore films? Me, never. But now you tell me you need to preserve your sense of well-being. So be it. Allow me to sully my eyesight with the real horrors to spare you, sparing you from reality, the munitions our government sent. But at least listen. Your money is paying for it. How does one turn wet, warm blood into cold, dry ink? How to translate the terrified, sobbing children trembling and crowding into the half-bombed hospital, floor slippery with blood, into a cogent prose to inflict caring upon the desensitized zombie population. How do we make you care? I ran into a friend at the local store, a man I have seen cry over the death of a friend and moved to tears by art. He asked me how I am going. I felt my eyes were hollowed. My eyes are on fire. My eyes are like hot marbles. I told him, I even vomited one night, trying to purge the atrocities. He shrugged when I said, so many children were murdered. He shrugged. His shoulder blades sliced my face, and I began to bleed all over the co-op floor. He said cavalierly, and many more children were born. I couldn't contain my blood and shock. I got in my canoe and paddled home weeping. How do I make you care when you've been weaned on horror movies? Thank you.
one final final call on the mic, just in case that changes anybody's mind. Okay. Thank you all so much for being here. This is the end then of the poetry section of the evening. If you do want to just peruse some of the poems on your own, they're on that table over there. There's also a bunch of blank postcards. If you're moved to action, whether you're a Vermont resident or a New Hampshire resident, there are steps you can take to communicate with your representatives, whether national or local. We can kind of walk you through some talking points if you're interested in that. As well on the table, we have a QR code that will take you to a donation site for the Edward Said Public Libraries in Gaza. That is the organization we've chosen to lift up. It feels like it was in the spirit of this evening, as well as just like important work we can continue to do. And if you are not plugged into an organization, as someone who's an organizer, that's the number one recommendation I can make to you today. It's so important to be here, but it's even more important to continue the work in an organized fashion. So we have information about Upper Valley for Palestine. We can connect you to folks from JVP, which is Jewish Voice for Peace, Vermont, New Hampshire, the Vermont Coalition for Palestinian Liberation. And importantly, on that note, there is a rally this Saturday in Burlington at 1 p.m. So if you are able to make it to that, or if you have questions about that, you can come touch base with me or any of the other organizers who you've seen speak this evening. I guess it's my teacher nature to ask, are there any questions? Yeah, Nancy.
Yeah, I just wanted to add about the rally in Burlington and then also locally. If you have any capacity to get to Burlington on Saturday, if you know other people who can get there, whether you live on the Vermont or New Hampshire side, the rally is in advance of an emergency city council meeting to take up a ceasefire resolution. There is very strong support across the city for this resolution, but they are also facing significant organized opposition, including a paid organizer for the Zionist side who's been working 24/7 to wine and dine city councilors and so forth. So a huge turnout on Saturday will be significant. Also, we hope at some point this month or early next month that the Lebanon New Hampshire City Council will also take up a ceasefire resolution. So if you live in or around Lebanon, or if you are interested in your own town in organizing a ceasefire resolution, I encourage you to get involved with Upper Valley for Palestine, Jewish Voice for Peace, organizations that are working to try to make this happen.
Thanks, Nancy. Yeah, Lucy.
If you're interested in going to Burlington on Saturday but want to carpool, either want vehicles ride or need a ride, let one of us who is back here, someone who's spoken, I know, because Upper Valley for Palestine is organizing some transportation so we can get you connected to someone who can give you a ride as well.
Awesome. Yep. If you're sticking around, like I said, we have the organizing table over there. If you are a young person or have a young person with you, we have some coloring opportunities if you're in need for some decompression. And otherwise, we're going to have the music playing again, and we'll just kind of be circulating and hanging around for the next 30 minutes or so. So, oh yeah, Sylvia.
I just want to make one last comment. So, in New Hampshire next week on Wednesday, there is a Senate hearing on an anti-BDS bill. So BDS, for those who aren't familiar, is boycott, divestment, sanctions, trying to boycott and divest from Israel. And there's a bill going to the Senate hearing next Wednesday, 10:15 a.m. in Concord, that says that companies that try to engage in BDS can lose their state contracts and their state funding. So if you oppose that bill, whether you're a New Hampshire resident or a Vermont resident, there's a section on the state government's website where you can register your opposition. And I would encourage everyone to go and do that. You can also send in written testimony. And if you want to testify in person, you can do that at 10:15 a.m. in Concord next Wednesday, January 24th.
Yeah, and if you follow Upper Valley for Palestine on any of our social media accounts, we'll be posting, we have kind of like a cheat sheet to the bill and talking points that you can kind of borrow for your own communication if you choose to do so. Okay, any final questions or announcements that people want a microphone for? Chris?
You want to mention the next poetry reading next week?
Oh, I do. Oh my God. I do definitely want to do that. There's another one of these next week. If you live near Bethel, or you know people who do, or you just didn't have enough poetry tonight and want to do it again. Next Wednesday, which is the 24th, from 6 to 8 p.m., so slightly later and also slightly further north, at the Arnold Block. I believe there will also be food, potluck type vibes. Yeah. I will be there. Some of us, other folks from UV for P will be there. So if you're interested, you can also get in touch or follow us, and we will post the reminders for you as well.
Where is the Arnold Block in Bethel?
On Main Street, next to Cockadoodle, also by Babes, which is a lovely establishment if you want to go there as well. I don't work there or own it. I'm a fan. All right. Thank you, everybody. I'm going away from the microphone now.